No, you don't need the.
I'm doing legend. My way. He a legend. 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 Welcome to the league. 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 Welcome to the league. To the league. To the league. To the league. To the league.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and in today's video we're going to talk about CLG and why I think that their faith is baseless. So CLG put something out a few days ago on November 30th about their roster. They said, in case you missed it, we're running it back for LCS 2023. Here are insights from Kim Dynasty and some platypus guy on our roster decisions, the road ahead, and more. CLG win, probably not. CLG fighting, hopefully. So in this video, we're going to watch their video, and then, you know, I'll give some reactions throughout the video, and then I'll give more information about what I think about the CLG roster. So we have contracts, the trophy.
The Herald's at 2,500. C9's getting away.
It's
stolen away
stuff
by CLG. They'll grab it, they'll get the eye, but now it's going to be a fight. There comes Renata's ulti. There goes C9.
So one of the things that probably happened during the playoffs is they had matches like this where they went 5 games, and that kind of tricked the management group into thinking, oh, well, you know, this team has the ability to go toe-to-toe with these teams and, you know, should be able to do it in the future if we run back the same roster, and that's kind of a trap that a lot of professional sports teams fall into.
Joke to the back. It's already 2 down. Luger's ready to go.
Certain things you like. So what I would say is people like Palafox are willing to make plays. I don't hate that. People like Luger have the ability to carry. Dokla had some good games throughout the year. But I think most people watching this and trying to be objective about it realize that C9 had some questionable drafts during the 5-game series, and if they respected CLG more, it wouldn't have been as close. And by the way,
so this past offseason, we explored a lot of different options, as most teams do in the offseason, and ultimately we've come to the decision to run back the same 5 players from our summer roster. We have a lot of faith in this group to...
So I wanted to stop it there because that's the first time that he says faith. I know that CLG has a lot of like faith-based messaging, meaning like they talk about believing in their players and faith that things will get better and that their team will improve. But it's empty without actual improvement, some kind of system that they're dependent on, or players who have extremely high talent. So I think those are the things you really have to ask yourself. Do you believe that CLG is actually pushing this narrative, or are they just trying to, you know, mail it in?
To continue pushing forward throughout the year, and ultimately it's something that we're really excited about.
I'm personally just really excited to see how this unit can come together, grow, and take things to the next level.
So I think that I should also mention, realize how they've said nothing so far. It's a bunch of platitudes. That's never a good sign. It happens in almost all these roster videos, which is part of the reason why they're not actually like valuable videos.
We considered making some changes to the roster. Obviously, every team in the offseason is going to explore all their different options that are available to them, and we did the same.
So this is funny because it kind of conflicts with their idea that they believe in this roster. If they truly believed in this roster to like an unreasonable amount, which would have been based off of like seeing how well they perform in practice or how far they went in the playoffs or something like that, they wouldn't have gone after other players, and I hope that they did go after other players. So it's really just a conflict in messaging in my mind. Like, I don't like that part of it.
Yeah, I think...
But it also shows that they know that their team isn't good enough.
Like any good sports team, we did our diligence this offseason and explored whether there's an opportunity to shake things up, make upgrades, or do any sorts of stuff with the roster, but ultimately, like...
Using the word upgrade is not a good idea there.
At the end of the day, we felt like there was still stuff left on the table and still room for this unit to grow, and...
So my question would be, how can this team grow? What specifically can this team do to grow? If you have any opinions on that, leave a comment, because I think that, again, it's just a platitude and there's no substance behind that statement without, you know, actually giving an example.
You know, everyone from myself and Jonathan down to our coaching staff and the players themselves are excited to see like what this same unit can do to take things to the next level, particularly after the improvement we saw over the course of summer split and just the last few weeks of playoffs.
So in regards to that, I think that you know, you shouldn't get tricked by results. A lot of the time, you can get a good result against an opponent. It doesn't mean that you deserved it. It just means that if you played the match a million times, like, you're going to get a good result every once in a while. I do think that CLG was playing okay at the end of the split. So my criticism isn't that CLG is incapable of playing well, even for, like, you know, stretches of time. Maybe not a full split, but, you know, they're capable of winning matches against good teams, but they're never going to be, you know, true favorites over a lot of these teams.
Also walking all the way across the rift to join back up as he goes over the wall. The Q3's ready to do it. He doesn't have his ulti just yet, but he doesn't need it. He kills the enemy AD carry. They take the dragon at the same time. CLG is absolutely slaughtering Cloud9 here in game number 4.
This is that CLG style. This is how they got
really
all their
style,
upset
so,
wins,
you know,
over these top teams in the
that's
regular
part of the problem
season.
with listening to broadcasters.
Throughout the offseason, a lot of our players were playing in the World's Champions queue, as well as being in New York for fan meets and different activations all throughout the World Championship.
Yeah, so this was a bit of a unique offseason for us since Worlds within North America, and I think that means a couple things. I think, one, it was super motivating for our players, and two, I think it has...
The idea that the physical location of the World Championship will change how important the biggest tournament in an esport, like the level of interest from a professional player on the World Championship shouldn't be where it's located.
Giving them a bunch of exposure to what it's like to experience and play at the top level. And I think
And that's not playing at the top level. That's them watching people play at the top level. They can say, like, champions or challengers queue, champions queue, whatever. But it's not the same. I think it's obvious that it's not the same. So if you believe in that, I feel sorry for you.
the other cool part is just like, yeah, we had some of the best players in the world on our soil in CQ. A couple of our players were even scrimming against some of the World Finals teams leading up to that awesome last day in San Francisco. So, you know, I think it's really put us in a really good mindset to go into this off season and this Korea boot camp to focus on improvement and, like, getting to that next stage.
Not many teams get to run
What is that next stage? I wonder what their actual goal is for this team and if they think that they can win North America.
back the same 5 starters from one split to another.
And right there, you know, not many teams get to run back 5 players. Well, if you're CLG, you can, because none of your players are that good.
For us, it's something that not only were we excited to do, but obviously the community is really excited.
And then this, I absolutely hate this part of it. So let's just read them. Squad, 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 squad. The return of my boy Juanito. You truly love to see it. If you truly love watching this CLG team, I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of just horrible. I'm stoked. Win or lose, I wanted the boys to have another shot. I hope they all head off to Korea and spam solo queue and secure some scrims. It's all just
for us to
dogma. I'm very happy about this. I think they will improve a ton, and lock-in should go very, very well. Let's go. Why? There's no reason to think that it'll be better. I think that the best that they can hope for is a similar performance to Summer, which is unlikely given the new rosters that are in the LCS. I'm so happy we are running the same 5 again, especially Palafox. He's going to be the best mid in LCS by far. That person is obviously not objective. They are delusional. And then I can't read the last
doing
one.
as well, so...
So happy to keep this roster. Been a fan since day one, and this squad finally has me hyped about our new season for the first time in a long time. I think I'm going to buy a Palafox jersey, which is totally fine. Love that guy. I think he can be best in NA. He cannot be the best in NA. Palafox will never be the best mid laner in North America, and he will most likely never be the best North American mid laner either. I would like somebody to explain to me, how can Palafox become a better player than Jojo Pyun? That's what I want to hear from someone in the comment section, please and thank you. Dokla is super hungry for success. I hope he gets it. That's such a throwaway sentence.
For us, it's a super exciting opportunity to see what we can do ultimately.
Yeah, I just want to get back out there. I think after the summer playoffs ended, you know, we played without any regrets, but we felt like there was more that we could give, and that there was more for this group as a unit to grow and to show.
We are going to have a smite fight, it looks like, over this.
I do respect the way the CLG played. I think their mentality was right. The players in the game going for it and playing aggressive. That's one of the only things that you can truly control is your aggression level, whether or not it works out.
They're into the back line, they got Berserker!
But see, like, it's funny, like this against C9.
Yeah, so throughout this year,
If you think about it, like, C9 just got better, so.
we saw a lot of growth.
Well, that might not be true. C9 now has more experience going to Worlds, competing in Worlds, and now they have a new mid laner. I don't know if Diplex is going to be an improvement over Jensen, but, you know, it does give them some more upside. They said that he's like a melee mid laner. I don't think that in itself is necessarily a good decision. I think that there was probably some flawed decision making in there, like seeing how Zika has the ability to play melee mid laners, and bringing in somebody who can do that is like maybe exciting for C9, but that also assumes that when we get to the, you know, spring split finals, summer split finals, or Worlds, that we're going to have a meta that allows for melee mid laners, which isn't always the case.
And our players from a playoff run that, you know, we went the distance, multiple silver scrapes, obviously wanted to see a little more, wish there could have been a little more, but played without regrets. Went into a series of events in New York that really energized all the players. We're looking to head into boot camp in Korea to really put that finishing touch on our preparation before we come back to scrimming in North America. And I think I have a lot of faith personally that our team can really make it happen. And honestly, if we don't have faith, why are we here?
Like, that's kind of what I really don't like about this kind of video that a team puts out, is because you can kind of say that about any team, regardless of what kind of moves they made in the offseason, regardless of anything. It's like, oh, well, if we don't have faith in what we did, then why would we have done it? Why would we do anything? It's really kind of just more empty statements. But I just want to go through something that I kind of wrote about CLG. So again, I think that unfortunately at the end of the day, when we get to the important points during next year, where whether it's lock-in, the spring split, the summer split, any of the playoffs, they're not going to make Worlds. I'll start off with that. The chances of them making Worlds is probably under 2%, realistically. I think that their faith is baseless. Last year in lock-in, with this roster, they lost in the first round of knockouts. Which is kind of whatever. They didn't have the entire year of growth, so you could try to argue that you coached them up or something. I doubt it. Then in the spring, they came in 8th place, and Contracts was horrible. It was one of the worst splits that we've ever seen from a jungler in North America, and that's coming from a person who I like Contracts. Like, I thought it was a great. He had the best potential. A couple of years ago, out of a bunch of junglers before Blabber and Spica kind of showed up. Contracts was thought of as the young jungler that might have the opportunity to grow into something much better. But for a bunch of different reasons, he kind of bounced around different teams and wasn't given true opportunities and kind of got screwed, I think, a little bit. So it is sad, and I do like Contracts. I like that he's very emotional, and I kind of made jokes about it last year, how he was like crying on the analyst desk or whatever. But it's almost refreshing that people are that honest about how much it means to them. So, like, I don't have any negative feelings towards these players personally, obviously. I just think it's, you know, not a good roster. Then in summer, they came in 4th place during the regular season. They had a really good regular season. I think that it was one of the best possible metas for them, which helps a lot. But just because it's a good meta for your players doesn't mean the coaches are going to pick accordingly. They seemed to have an okay plan during playoffs, and like I said earlier, they were aggressive. They went after it, and you know, we should be more supportive of teams who are actually aggressive. The only fear would be, you know, if CLG believes that they have the talent, which they don't, to compete with these better teams, will that impact their play style? And I hope it doesn't. I hope that players like Palafox are able to be aggressive. Contracts has kind of lost that aggression for the most part because a lot of it seemed directionless last year. There's that. And then they lost in the first round of winners, and then the second round of the losers bracket. They beat Golden Guardians. Great. You beat Golden Guardians. You know, can't really say anything too positive about that. So the faithful CLG fans will say that they are a young team with upside and potential, but if we're being honest, I think they're not. They're not young. Dokla is 25 and has never been the best top laner in the LCS. There are currently at least 3 top laners who are much better than him, and probably 5 or 6 top laners altogether who are at his level, if not better. So he will not be the difference maker consistently. There could be drafts where he wins a game, but it's unlikely that he will win an entire match for a team in the playoffs. Contracts, Palafox, and Poom are all 23, and while they all have experience in the LCS, most of it involves losing. They've been on bad teams almost exclusively. I think, like I said, when Contracts is playing aggressive, I think that he is in the same like style of player as somebody like Piosik, which is funny now that Piosik is in the North American LCS. But Contracts isn't as good of a decision maker. He's not as mechanically gifted. So there are a lot of problems, and that's always bad when you have the worst or lesser version of another player that's in your league. Then we have Palafox. Palafox is an aggressive mid laner. He plays a lot of the melee champions. Like, I don't know how good Diplex is, but if at the end of the year we said that Diplex isn't as good as Palafox, like, I wouldn't be totally shocked. But again, I have not seen Diplex play. I saw that he had like some Twisted Fate games and stuff like that. In general, I hate players who, are on teams. I hate players who play Twisted Fate because there's only like 2 or 3 mid laners in the world that can really consistently pull that off, because their teams play around it the right way. The only chance that CLG has is if Luger turns into the best AD carry in North America. He's only 21 years old, which is not young, in relation to all of the players around the world. So it won't increase their chance at being competitive at Worlds or winning Worlds. But as a 21-year-old, could he become the best AD carry in North America? I think it's very unlikely. We still have FBI, Berserker, and now Prince coming into the bot lane. But it's funny because Prince has always been a pretty good AD carry. I didn't know much about him until last year, where he really went off and played really well. And it looked like he had the shackles taken off of him last year because he was much more aggressive. I think we have seen glimpses of Luger being aggressive, and there have been games where I am slightly impressed with Luger. But I don't think that he is going to be enough to be the winning difference on a team that is competitive consistently in spring and summer and can win a championship. So this might sound a little extreme, but if CLG believes that this team can win the LCS, they're incompetent. And I think that we heard some kind of hedging from the guys that made this video were in this video, because they were saying, like, we looked at upgrades, but ultimately we decided to bring the same players back. There can be a lot of different reasons, and they're not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, we tried getting a better team, but we just couldn't do it, so we brought back the same guys. Hopefully, you guys don't stop watching us. But if they think this team can win the LCS, in my opinion, the management, the GM, and the talent evaluators are incompetent. If they don't believe and still brought back this roster, they're liars, because they're still pushing the faith narrative, which I know their hands are kind of tied, but you shouldn't really be doing that. I get that's a lot of their messaging, but I hate it because their fans will just lap it up. And I said, they're pushing the faith narrative, and they're depending on their fan base to be ignorant to the LCS landscape that we're currently in today, because they don't have a top player in any role. So why do you think that this team is going to evolve into something more? A lot of fans like to say, oh, well, the team is really, it's more important to be a good team than have good individual players. Well, if you look at all the best teams in the world, you know what they have in common? They have some of the best players in the world, because individual talent is really a necessary ingredient for being a good team. You may have a bunch of unknown players on a team, but you can't have them be bad and unknown. They must be they need to be good players and unknown. Zika wasn't unknown, but he wasn't popular. Piosik, people didn't really have a very high opinion of him. Others did, like myself. Kingen, Beryl, you need to understand how these players can fit together, why these teams have room to grow. So DRX last year was a team that I was pushing for the entire year as a team with room to grow, because they had younger players. Zika is younger than every player on CLG, and he had championship winning upside, and we saw that happen last year. So ultimately, I don't think that CLG have a chance at winning anything meaningful this year. I think they are a bottom 5 team in the LCS, and their best case scenario is the C tier globally, which would be if they are competitive in the LCS and make it to a finals or you know, God forbid, win the springs. If they're going to win, I hope they win spring and not summer, because if they go to Worlds, they're going to get absolutely dominated, and that's not good for us. It's not good for the scene in general. So that's it. You know, let me know what you think about CLG, what other roster decisions you think that they could have made, if you think that any of these players could be on a consistent LCS team that has the ability to win or go to Worlds. Like, let me know in the comment section who you think those players are. But that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.